All right, I'll ask that out of respect for our presenters, you remain muted until you are called on during the Q&A time within this meeting. Also, please note that the captions are turned on for this meeting, which you can access at the bottom of the screen, and you can also move your captions around the screen based off of where you need to see them. So today's presenters responded to a national call that asked artists to think three-dimensionally and propose a sculptural design that would physically transform an existing bus structure in Winston-Salem. From a talented pool of national artists, our selection committee chose an artist team led by Betsy Towns, Beth Ravitz, and David Moore as the finalists for the Waughtown Street bus shelter. The committee was particularly excited by these artists as each person had thoughtfully considered the site of the bus shelter. Knowing that this shelter is at the intersection of many historic neighborhoods, it was important to the committee that these designs considered the history, culture, and environment of the site. Please note that while there are two bus shelters at the Waughtown Street and South Main intersection, artists were given the option to transform only one of the shelters. So for tonight's meeting, each artist will have 10 minutes to present and then 5 minutes for Q&A from the audience. I'll be moderating the Q&A, so please post your questions in the chat or just raise your hand to be called on. And at the end of today's meeting, I will provide a survey link so that you can provide your feedback and inform the committee on who you'd like to select. If you're having any technical issues, just send me a direct message in the chat. Okay, so to kick off our meeting, I'd like to hand the presentation over to the artist team comprised of Betsy Towns, Cheryl Harry, and Kayyum Allah. I'm going to just give very brief introductions. So Betsy Towns is an associate professor of art history and an assistant dean at UNCSA. As an artist, she's designed and built large-scale interpretive public art installations and directed design of immersive education experiences. Cheryl Harry is a cultural curator and the founding director of Triad Cultural Arts, and an organization which presents culturally immersive programming for the enrichment of all people. Cheryl is a native of Winston-Salem and has been a lifelong contributor to the arts and culture within the city. And finally, Kayyum Allah was born in Winston-Salem. He's a graduate of Winston-Salem State University. He is the founder of Happy Hill Art Anthology Coalition and the learning director of Happy Hill After School, amongst many other things. Most recently, he completed a 6-week outdoor art exhibit at the Happy Hill Clock Tower. So that was a handful. I'm going to hand it off now to Betsy and team.
Thank you so much, Erica. We're excited to be here, and thank you, committee, for your interest in our work. Erica, can you just confirm that you can see the slideshow okay?
Yes, I'm waiting until you're in full screen. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, so Erica, thank you for introducing us, and I'm just going to add a couple of more words to that introduction, and then we'll share the aspects of the work that each of us are working on. So we are all members of the community who live and work in and around Happy Hill. Cheryl is a community organizer and historian who has been central to documenting and raising awareness about Black history in Winston-Salem for decades, and has brought the Shotgun House Legacy Project from vision to action. Kayyum Allah is a Winston-Salem artist who lives in Happy Hill, is map maker for Happy Hill for the Art for Everybody project, formerly the One Nation, One Project program. He's documented Happy Hill's history and imagined its future in his acrylic paintings. And you mentioned his work with the Neighborhood Association Arts Organization. There is an exhibition now at Milton Roads, which is opening now, and the celebration is on February 1st. So that's curated by Kayyum. And I'm an art historian and artist experienced in design build, and I live right on Main Street and work at UNCSA. So this location is central to my experiences. So some images of us and our work. And Cheryl, I'll turn it over to you for some history.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Betsy.
Yeah.
And good evening, everyone. Our organization, Triad Cultural Arts, is involved in developing a legacy site in our city's oldest planned African-American neighborhood, Happy Hill. It's centered around a shotgun house. Shotgun houses once populated the Happy Hill community in neighborhoods throughout the city. They housed low-income and working-class Black families who often paid rent to absentee landlords. Now, the term shotgun is believed to have originated because you could shoot a gun through the front and back doors if you left the doors open and go straight through the living room, bedroom, and kitchen. However, research supports the word shotgun is derived from the Yoruba word togun, which means place of assembly or where people gather. Another possible derivative is from the Yoruba word shogun, which means God's house. In 2015, Triad Cultural Arts responded to an RFP issued by the city to save 2 historic shotgun houses, which are located on Humphrey Street. Of course, in Happy Hill. And Happy Hill is actually a freedmen's community, which is adjacent to Salem, that developed shortly after emancipation in 1872. In 2018, and I'm just sort of giving you a little timeline here, the city of Winston-Salem committed to establish a location for the shotgun houses at the Happy Hill Park. Of course, 2019, COVID hit and the pandemic halted restoration plans. And then in 2021, the city revisited the plan to honor its commitment to the restoration, and we began to resume our plans. And this is just an image of us doing some artwork during the Juneteenth festival to put on those boarded windows. And then in 2022, November 14th, to be exact, the city council approved a resolution authorizing the sale of the Happy Hill shotgun houses to Triad Cultural Arts for $1. The acquisition included 3 parcels of land, which totaled about 1.5 acres in size and contained 2 original shotgun houses. In 2023, the property deed was transferred to Triad Cultural Arts. So we are developing a master plan for the Shotgun House Legacy Site, but for us, it's about a public monument to the legacy of those men and women who worked to make a life for their families pre and post emancipation. It's about learning what it took in the past to get where we are today.
So in our proposal, the transformation of the shelter would serve 3 major purposes. It would create a comfortable, welcoming, and aesthetically pleasing bus stop. It also evokes a sense of conversation inside a neighborhood, the way that we tend to talk across the street from porch to porch. That concept is conveyed by the dual bus shelters across the street from one another. It also raises awareness of the Happy Hill Shotgun House Legacy Site before it opens, and would create links inside the shelter so that people could learn more about that legacy site, and features the artwork of Happy Hill artist Kayyum. So in our proposal, we suggest that we would retain the existing aluminum frame for the bus shelter, but remove the roof as it exists now. We would then sandwich the existing aluminum with a facade built of pressure-treated wood. And then here would be the side view of that. It would have a 5v10 roof, a gutter to prevent rain from falling on folks as they're sitting in the shelter and entering and exiting, as well as just a balustrade, a real simple porch balustrade along the sides. We would keep the plexiglass in the existing structure so that from both the back, which you see here, and the front, you could see the paintings by Kayyum reproduced on translucent vinyl, so that it is as if you're looking inside the porch doors or the porch windows and into the city around. So here's the finished front view. Another element that we'd like to add is removing the existing seating and replacing that with the glider that we see in historic photographs of Happy Hill and other similar shotgun house neighborhoods. The artwork in these images will be the real transformation of the experience inside the bus shelter. we've chosen artworks by Kayyum Allah, and we'll add additional new ones that would allow you to look into a vision of the future inside the Happy Hill shotgun houses, but also creates some of the stories of the past. So you get kind of all three time periods. So in this slide, you see on the right an image of the first African-American school, which was actually at the location of the Valero that you see up the hill. And so you'd be looking through the window of the shelter, through the side porch of the shelter, and up to that existing location. And another painting by Kayyum on the left, which shows the safe bus, a safe bus from the Safe Bus Company. So that could be as if you're looking down the street and seeing the bus on the street. Similarly, in the second set of shelters, if we placed the shotgun house on the north side, the northeast side, it would be as if you're looking into the Happy Hill neighborhood in the past and seeing that shotgun house envisioned by Kayyum. And an example of another element could be the Wade Bidding Bridge, which folks who use the Greenway often are probably familiar with. And so Kayyum, if you'll talk about, one more point, the budget. Essentially, our budget is about a bit over $13,000 for labor and materials, and a bit over $6,000 to support our work as artists, designers, and researchers. And then to Kayyum to talk about the works.
Excuse me. This particular painting of the shotgun houses with the two images in front of them was really done to highlight the agricultural aspect of the community and the part that it played in supplying food for the community of Old Salem and surrounding areas. It's a painting of both of the shotgun houses that are in existence today. This is a scene of the first African school that was built on the grounds of the Happy Hill community, right behind the bus stop on Alder Street. So this school was built in 1867, and this is a rendition of that school and the students and the faculty at that time. This is a still life of kitchenware and kitchen activity, wherein the utensils as well as the fruit is being prepared in the shotgun houses in that area of the kitchen. And this is just my rendition of how that would appear to be. This is the famous Wade Bidding Bridge. It was constructed in 1936, and it was called for many, many years the Old Metal Truss Bridge. But at that time, the contribution that Mr. Wade Bidding Sr. made toward getting this bridge erected for the community of Happy Hill, so that they would actually be able to walk past and walk over the Salem Creek area to get to work in Old Salem. He was very instrumental in getting this bridge erected. And as a consequence, they have renamed the bridge the Wade Bidding Sr. Bridge. So this is my rendition of that bridge leading from Old Salem to Happy Hill, or Happy Hill to Old Salem, crossing over Salem Creek. This is a detail from the mural that's hanging in the William C. Sims Recreation Center at the Ben Piggott Gymnasium. It's part of a Tritech mural that was done in 1999. And this particular scene is just showing the roots of Happy Hill and how deep they go and how far they go from St. Philip's Church and even down to the Kente Cloth significance and influence of the African culture in Happy Hill. The gentleman at the top of Happy Hill is a depiction of Mr. William C. Sims himself, who the Recreation Center is named after him for the work that he did in Happy Hill. These are just scenes of the mural, details of the mural. Young lady being enlightened by the advent of the computer and the upliftment that she received. The old form of teaching, with the lady at top teaching children at that time. And the third picture in the window is just a vantage of African sculpture, the old soldier, the Buffalo Soldiers, as they were called at that time, and some old things and new things are depicted in this picture, something old, something new. And that's what this, the picture in the window is depicting.
Great. Do you want to sum up for us?
Yes, the use of the bus shelters in this fashion, we believe will provide significant meaning for our city. The shotgun house, the architectural style can be traced back to West Africa. There are only a few remaining shotgun houses in the city. These bus shelters will raise awareness of the neighborhood, its history, and the future legacy of our community. As a pairing, they suggest a pairing of the two bus shelters. They suggest conversation from porch to porch, and of course, the porch is very Afrocentric. They add a sense of place and history, as well as comfort for the users. Sitting in a glider, the glider is very historic. They actually envision a thriving Happy Hill.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation, and we're happy to take questions.
Great. Thanks so much. If anyone wants to put their questions in the chat, feel free to do that, or just raise your hand either via a button or just the video yourself. I'll ask a question. I'm curious about, can you talk a little bit more about like the material choice of wood for the structure?
Yeah, we're aiming to have materials that would be the traditional materials for the shotgun houses in Happy Hill, but that continue to be really relevant and durable today. So, of course, always thinking about what might happen to shelters as they're out in the among the public and weathering. These are materials that are time tested. If something does happen to them in terms of vandalism, in terms of being altered, they're really easy to adjust. So we're really working to tie to the homes that exist in Happy Hill, existed in the past, and continue to be built there even today.
Neat. And then one additional question was, will there be interpretive material included?
Yeah, that absolutely. Most of the interpretive material would be via QR links so square code links to the websites that Cheryl's creating for the legacy site and that are already partly constructed, but also brief histories right there on the railings of the porch so that people can get a sense of where they are, but have a way to learn a lot more than the images convey.
And then additionally, will occupants be visible from the sides of the shelter, and will they be able to see around the shelter for security?
Occupants will be visible to not quite to the same extent that they are now, so that it will still have the translucence like with the entirely vinyl wrapped shelters. But the translucence will only be at the point of the door and window. So people would be able to see out the sides and see through the door and window behind them. It doesn't have as much, it's not as entire a visibility as what exists now. But they're definitely translucent windows on all three sides of the enclosed shelter.
So do you imagine that all of the images that are going to be adhered to the plexiglass will have some like level of transparency?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Great.
Do you all have more to add to that? Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I will forever be an educator that always wants to speak through the silence, but noticing that nobody else has posted any questions, I think I'm going to move forward. So thank you so much.
Fine. And I think we've addressed the questions that the commission had, but if not, we have those. Glad to address them. Thank
Okay.
you very much for your time.
Okay, so we're going to move on to Beth Ravitz. Beth lives in Southern Florida. She's a multi-dimensional public artist working with ceramic, glass, metal, sculpture, printing, and painting. She's been engaging and collaborating with communities to transform public spaces into functional and aesthetically beautiful works of art for the past 15 years. Beth has helped obtain public art ordinances, written master plans, chaired public art committees, and consulted for several cities, as well as created over 30 public art projects throughout Florida and the nation. So I'm going to hand it off to Beth now if you want to share your screen and unmute.
Go. Go. Okay, unmute. Okay, hi, I'm Beth Ravitz. The artistic bus shelter in Winston-Salem serves as a vibrant canvas, weaving together the tapestry of the region's rich history and cultural diversity, anchored in the symbolism of the North Star, a beacon of hope and guidance. The design pays homage to its particular importance for African Americans. My public art project, Reach for the Stars, is a baseline for creating the design and narrative for the Waughtown bus shelter, as shown below. Did I show it? Just gonna show my model before I continue. But it's the roof that is important for my project, Reach for the Stars. Happy Hill, once a farm catering to Winston-Salem's African-American community, forms a crucial part of this narrative. The sculpture encapsulates the essence of this historical location, resonating with the spirit of resilience and community that defined Happy Hill. Old Salem emerges as a living testament to the area's history, with its museum and gardens telling stories of Moravian, Black, and Indigenous peoples. Within this historical treasure trove lies the Museum of Early Southern Decorative Arts, and in translucent, Kayla, wanna put that light thing up again? This is an actual plate that I'm gonna put on translucent vinyl, but that's an actual plate from this Museum of Southern Early Decorative Arts. The history takes center stage in the artistic narrative, represented by translucent vinyl panels attached to the 3 window walls of the bus shelter. My maquette represents visually the intent of the overall design of this shelter, giving the viewer a visual sense of history while still providing a way to see out into the surrounding areas. Quilts showcase without the Museum of Early Southern Decorative Arts carry profound historical weight as they were once employed by slaves as covert maps for freedom in a time where literacy or map making could be perilous for the enslaved. These quilts served as indigenous tools of communication, woven with messages of liberation. And I have quilts on the other two sides. Right here is from a quilt. And this side is from a quilt. Again, it's on translucent panels. So we have one quilt, we have a plate, and we have another quilt on this side. So while the passenger waits for the bus, they're enveloped in history of Waughtown. The historical importance of Waughtown is further underscored by its role as a North American trading route, manufacture of ironworks connecting to Fayetteville and extending northeastward along a wide bridge towards the town of Kernersville. The icon of Winston-Salem Ironworks is the iron coffee pot, which is adorned on the shelter. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. Right here. That's the pot. And I also have it over here is the pot again. And everything else on this roof are the stars, a moon, and a bird is over here. The icon of Winston-Salem, which I just spoke about, that coffee pot, is adorned on the shelter rooftop with the night sky stars and moons. The remnants of this historic past, including streetcar line along Sprague Street, add layers to the narrative, offering a glimpse into the region's evolution. And lastly, the University of North Carolina, UNCSA, North Carolina School of the Arts, emerges as a cultural cornerstone, shaping the artistic identity of Winston-Salem, founded in 1963 as America's first public arts conservatory. The shelter incorporates this unique celebration of performing art by 4 powder-coated aluminum sculptures attached to each corner of the bus stop. Here we have a musical instrument, and here on this corner we have a guitar. On this corner, wrapped around the pole of the is a dancer performing arts, and here's another dancer here. Those 4 icons are gonna be powder coated aluminum, red, yellow, or copper, and a purple. And they're gonna be wrapped around, attached to the 4 poles, one on each pole of the bus shelter. These sculptures are characterized as dancers and musical instruments. UNCSA has been a nurturing ground for wildly creative and hardworking young artists for over 50 years. Notable alumni, including Jada Pinkett Smith, Bob Mackey, and Debbie Allen, who exemplify the institution's commitment to fostering talent and innovation. In this comprehensive narrative, the artistic best shelter becomes more than a visual spectacle. It becomes the storyteller, eloquently conveying the multifaceted history, resilience, and creativity that define Winston-Salem. And in case you didn't see, here's the original Reach for the Stars that the roof represents of the bus shelter.
Wonderful. Thank you so much,
Okay,
Beth.
I'm ready for Q&A.
So if anyone has questions, please post those in the chat. Okay, one question is, who will be doing the fabrication?
Yes, the artwork are translucent panels that will be adhered to the glass of the bus shelter, and you can see through them, and they don't fully cover the panel. Like the plate in the back is round, and everything around it is just clear glass. And the same thing for the quilts on each side. So the sitter in the bus shelter can look out and both see the quilt and see the outside. Okay, the fabrication will be done by a metal welder who will be making the entire model. They'll be making the roof and then be placing it on top of the bus shelter. They'll be doing the powder coated cutouts of the musical instruments and the performing artists, and then it'll go to a powder coater. Everything is gonna be local. I've already been calling, but I haven't decided on the actual welder until I see what happens with this interview. And then I'll nail that down. And that's the time I nail down prices, because I can't ask for a better price for a project I don't have. Yes, I prepared a budget and sent it in. I can do all this for the $19,999. Let's call it 20,000. That's easier. all my materials are very durable because they're meant for outside. Powder coated aluminum is what stop signs are made of, and signs on your highway, those green signs, and they're extremely durable. And the roof of the structure will be painted. The metal will be painted with a very durable paint that's meant for metal and longevity. All of my materials have tremendous longevity.
Wonderful. I think that we don't have any questions left. So I will move on to the next presenter. Thank you so much, Beth.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much, everybody.
Okay, so then we will be moving on to David Moore, who lives in Atlanta, Georgia. He has a master's in architecture from the Georgia Institute of Technology. He's worked as a designer on a number of public art commissions with firms like the Pillar Foundation and Vulcan Alkanoglu. Most recently, he founded Reference Studio. You can find his past work in Atlanta, Denver, and Pleasant Hill, Iowa. So welcome, David.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, let me jump in and share my presentation screen. So, hi, I'm David Moore, as she said. I have a little bit of bio here. Worked with Vulcan Alkanoglu and Amy Landisberg while I was going to school for an education in architecture, and I've went through that industry for several years, working short stints with Max Gogg and Merrill Elam Architects for their presentation at the Venice Biennale, and Blur Workshop, working mainly in hospitality. When I was there, I was one of the founding members of the Pillar Foundation, which is a nonprofit doing public space work, where we've done all kinds of community projects, bike walk lanes, bus stops, signage, playgrounds. And yeah, most recently founded Reference Studio, which is basically continuing a lot of the same work under my banner. Yeah, so jumping into this particular project, I call it Wildflowers. And the basic concept is referencing selections from North Carolina Botanical Gardens Wildflower of the Year program, with the hopes that it would connect people to the nature around them, specifically things they might experience on the Salem Creek Greenway, even as they are taking the bus to and from wherever they might go. So a couple of the selections of different wildflowers that I was looking at for this project, it's essentially 3 per shelter. I was looking at butterfly milkweed, which by the way, I'm not gonna bother trying Latin names here. No good at it. Which is the selection from 1985. American Beautyberry from 2021. Swamp Sunflower from 2007. Common Gold Alexanders from 2012. River Oats from 1994. And Fire Pink from 2015. And you all are all more familiar with the site, but here are the 2 shelters at Waughtown in question, with the Salem Creek Greenway entrances to the east and the west, just 1 minute walk or so, Triad Performing Arts to the south, Central Park, about 5 minute walk to the north, and UNC School of the Arts, about a 7 minute walk away. So for the two different designs, this is shelter one. I'm amenable to either side of the street for one or two. This is shelter one. Shelter one is using butterfly milkweed, the beauty berries, and the swamp sunflowers. The butterfly milkweed is applied as a vinyl graphic to the polycarbonate panels. I assume polycarbonate or acrylic vinyl applies the same. The body of the beauty berries and the swamp sunflower is made from break metal pieces. It's essentially would be fabricated a lot like a fence, where you have these vertical lines of the stems running that provide structure and could attach to the frame of the existing shelter. And then the flowers and berries act as adornments to that fence. And the vinyl graphics here are a bit more opaque than they'd be in execution, as other presenters tonight have expressed as well. And each of these pieces, so this is how the swamp sunflower might be put together, and that I could essentially have single pieces for each layer. So the petals would be one flat piece put on a break to create the shape of the petals, and then the florets through the center would be layers, concentric layers, to create that effect that you see in the florets in the center of the swamp sunflower. Should we go up here? You can see those. Please excuse my fast flipping. I won't need to for the beauty berries. They're a little bit more self-explanatory. With this, I'm more or less anticipating doing a grid work out of metal rod. And then there are prefabricated threaded metal balls that I would put onto the end of each of these rods in a branching pattern. And then at the sort of fence posts, as I mentioned, would attach on either end to the structure of the existing shelter. And one thing I want to draw attention to, which is sort of something I'm doing throughout, is making sure to round out pointy edges so as to not create hazards for anybody walking by or who might touch them. You can see here on the edges of the leaves. In most cases, the edges like this, the serration on the edge of the leaf is a major identifier of beauty berries, so it was included, but can be rounded out if there are continued safety concerns from the Public Art Commission. And second shelter, this composition is using common golden Alexander, river oats, and fire pink as the selection of wildflowers, with the golden Alexander making up the translucent vinyl background layer. The river oats as the sort of fence-like substructure, and the more goldeny pink dangling pieces, once again with air quotes, they'll be quite stiff. And then the fire pink acting as the sort of color pop and showpiece flowers of the shelter. And to wrap up shelter 2, the fire pink would be constructed very similarly to the swamp sunflowers, and that it's essentially layers of brake metal with EPDM rubber spacers in between. This one is significantly simpler than the swamp sunflowers just because of the, if you'll excuse some fast flipping again. The identifying features of this one are a little bit more iconic and simpler, with the main petals being, I believe, 4 to 5, and then 8 to 10 of the florets in the center. It's a bit more tubular. And then the river oats, which are the sort of fence-like structure of the piece, bolting to the bottom, top, then they kind of dangle a little past it. If you look at the shelter, I've made sure, even though this is a preliminary sketch, to let them generally intersect a lot, even as they're sort of in their dangling shape, so that they support against each other. And then the seed pods there. And yes, I'm going to submit the final budget when I turn in my invoice. I'm waiting on a few final quotes on the metal pieces and finishes. But to circle back around to that, I'm generally assuming that this stuff is going to be mostly fabricated out of aluminum due to weight and weathering purposes. Sort of the premium that I'd love to use as a finish would be the powder coating. That kind of depends on a one shelter or both shelters deal and the funding that's available. Another finish that I've been using a lot on outdoor projects like this over the past couple of years is automotive paint. That has very similar durability to powder coating, and it comes at a significantly lower price point and more colorways. And then there are some other options, but I wouldn't want to confuse it. More keep it to that for review when I turn in my budget. So, thank you.
Yay. Thank you, David. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them in the chat or just unmute yourself. And David, maybe if you want to just go back to a slide that has an image of the shelter. I have a question just about visibility. Like, how will the designs just affect visibility for transit users when they're inside the shelter?
Yeah, by design, I'm aiming for about 50% coverage of color on these vinyl graphics, and I think about 66 to 75% translucency. So still very visible. Essentially, you'd be able to see silhouettes fairly clearly through it. And these pieces, the sort of showpiece flowers of, in this case, the river oats and the fire pink, are significantly smaller as far as percentage of your view. So would be more or less, I believe the center of these is about 8 or 9 inches to give a sense of scale. So visibility is fairly well maintained through these. And that can be dialed in on the sort of transparency, translucency of the vinyl graphics, much as it is in the other presentations that were discussed tonight.
Cool. And then similar to previous question was, would there be interpretive materials that you'd want included for this as well?
The sort of goal that I would like to have is the botanical descriptions from the botanical garden of each of these flowers. So people would be able to learn a little bit about each of these selections and other pieces within the collection of the botanical garden while they're in each of the shelters, learn about identifying characteristics like the forward-facing serration of the beautyberry leaves, the various shapes of, say, the butterfly milkweed has a very distinctive cup and underside. So basically, interpretive materials I would want to, I guess, for a little while, have information about each of the plants.
And if there was any damage done to the structural pieces, how easy would maintenance or kind of repairs be?
To the structural pieces of
Either the flowers.
the flowers. That would be one of the considerations in finishes. It's significantly harder in powder coating to do repairs in field. Stuff like the automotive paints, that can cure as normal. And it would just basically be you tape it off. And I've even done it with brushes, but I would recommend spraying, just for consistency of finish, making sure that you don't see your brush marks telegraphing through and stuff like that. Oh, but structural damage, say if one of these got sawn through or something, I would hope that I would spec bar big enough to where it would take somebody coming out with a grinder or something to get through. If somebody comes out with a grinder to get at it, like they kind of, they're really working for it. But I don't imagine it would have it'd be easy to damage casually, is what I'm getting at.
Any additional questions? Okay, well then, thank you once again, David. This concludes our community meeting, so thank you to our artists for your presentations, and thanks all to everyone who attended. I'm going to paste a link to the survey in the chat. There we go. So please let us know your thoughts on today's presentations, because it will help inform the selection committee's decisions. And just to keep up to date on our selection process, you can check out the Public Art Commission's webpage. We have a link to a newsletter at the bottom of this page. Here you go. Where I will be sending out updates as we progress with this project. So thanks again to everyone for attending, and that's it for tonight. I'm going to start recording.